I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Jenny, to host the rest of the presentations today. So over to you, Jenny.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, everyone. My name's Jenny Tomei. So I'm a personal trainer, nutritionist. I have my own PT business. And I also run a non-profit organisation that I've been working with Gary. So it's all about early intervention of eating disorders, and I'll be talking a bit about that as well. And then we've got some guest speakers today. Gary's presentation on funding. We've got Sybil, we've got Patricia, and we've got Roger. And also we have Valerie as well. So I'll be introducing each speaker as well. And hopefully you've all come with your own presentation. But if you get stuck, I do have some questions as well that I can help you along with. But I'm going to get started with my own presentation to you all today regarding my own non-profit, so social enterprise company that I'm running alongside my other business. And I just thought it would be really nice to share my own sort of struggles that I've had running a non-profit and as an entrepreneur, and which I'm sure that you all will be able to relate to. And yeah, happy to answer any questions as I go along through the presentation as well, but I'll just share my screen with you. And then I'll play the presentation. There's a little bit about my story as well involved, just to add a bit of, just so you know why I started it as well. So the non-profit, the social enterprise that I'm working on with Gary, so it's all about early intervention and prevention of eating disorders. The organisation is called JenUp. And so JenUp is a recovery story. So it's all about my own recovery story from anorexia. So I had anorexia from age 19. It lasted for over 6 years. And I was treated at the Maudsley Hospital, and I was there for over a year. I also currently work alongside a psychotherapist. And we actually see young people who are struggling with eating disorders now. So I'm eating disorder trained, but I work alongside a psychotherapist for that extra support. So we mainly work with teenagers with 16 and above who have anorexia and bulimia. Just some statistics here, why I wanted to start the non-profit and to help young people with eating disorders. Obviously, you know, there's 1.25 million in the UK have an eating disorder. That's a huge amount. There's been a 68% increase in 10 to 19-year-olds seeking help in 2020. So there was a massive increase during the pandemic with young people seeking help, you know, like long waiting times as well. So young people not being seen, which means they're only going to get sicker, I'm afraid. People tend to seek treatment like further down the line. So 3 years, that's a long time. So 34% of adults in the UK did not know how to tell the signs of an eating disorder. That's 34%. And I think that's a huge amount. That's why I also created free toolkits as well for parents, teachers and young people on how to spot the early signs of an eating disorder. And that was funded, and that's all available on the JenUp website. And of course, eating disorders cost a lot of money, around 15 billion per year. So JenUp is a social enterprise. So I started it to help young people struggling with eating disorders. Obviously, many people are not, are just not on the radar of need. And I want to change this by ensuring that young people have access to quality education and self-help resources. So my aim is to get into as many schools as possible. I have found getting into schools a big challenge. I always seem to set myself up for these really big challenges, but I don't give up. Getting into schools has been a bit of a nightmare, but I have got into a few. They're just, they're very busy, and I can appreciate that. But I firmly believe getting education into schools is key. And obviously, if I can provide the funding for the school, then it's going to be a lot easier for me to, educate teachers and parents and young people about this area. Also, why I started it, emotional resilience is key, especially when running your own business as well. I go into schools currently, and I provide workshops for the students on how to have a healthy relationship with food and exercise. We train staff on how to spot the early signs of an eating disorder. We have actually put in I bid as well to the lottery, so we're just waiting to hear back on that, which obviously it takes time. And there are obviously various other grants that I've been looking at and applying for as well. There's just some current supporters and partnerships. I do think it's really good, like obviously being a business, sort of to like try and partner up with other companies who have access to, you know, your target market. So I work with a safeguarding company who work with a lot of schools. So I've delivered a few webinars for them, and I've got some great contacts through them for schools. So it's really good to try and, you know, work with someone, collaborate with someone, which I've also found very useful. And I've actually been able to land a school in Brazil actually from that relationship. So that's been really cool to do. Haringey Council, I've done a few presentations for them. Obviously councils are a little bit harder to get into, but if you are a non-profit, it does help. And yeah, we're also supported by the National Centre for Eating Disorders. Just a couple of schools where I've been, who we're working with, hopefully going to add on a few more in the next upcoming months. So Farrington, St Dunstan's College, we've got a school in Brazil there, and then I've been into Park Langley Girls' School as well. So just a little bit about daily. I just thought I wanted to add, I started discussing this with Gary actually, and I wanted to speak about this, about just daily challenges that you face as an entrepreneur, and just something that I found that I struggle with, probably on a much so like every week, sometimes on a daily basis, depends how I'm feeling. But we all have self-doubt. That's really, you know, really common. I just don't think it's spoken about enough. Isolation issues. So when you're working for yourself, it can be like really lonely, which is tough. Things like anxiety and stress. And the one thing that I'm sure that we can all relate to is that we wear too many hats. So we have to do everything and everything, which I have found particularly hard to do myself. Sometimes we do lack structure, which I'm going to speak about and give some tips about, and obviously financial issues as well, because, you know, at the end of the day, it does cost money to run a business, and we have to look after ourselves, and we don't get paid sick pay. So that's, you know, we have to, you know, look out for these things. So how to deal with isolation. So this is something that I just thought, hopefully other people can relate to this, because I've just found it hard myself, obviously working for myself for so many years. And I've just put some tips here on how to deal with it. So networking, I found very useful for myself. I try to like regularly attend like networking events just to meet other people, like gain good contacts. I think that's also like really good. I'm actually a really sociable person, so I need that social interaction. See one person a day to interact with, that's also really good and really helpful. Getting outside for a walk, especially if you're sat at your desk all the time. So being a fitness trainer, I always say to people who, I'm actually sitting at a desk more now because I'm obviously running the non-profit and doing a bit more, because I'm not really doing much PT anymore because I've had to down-regulate that. So I try and get out for a regular walk every day, go to a local cafe or a co-working space. That can really help with interaction as well. Attending social events in the evening, that's really good. Taking up a new hobby. So all my hobbies are sport related, obviously. But I play tennis, so that's really good social for me. That helps with my sort of interaction if I have a day or a week where I've not seen too many people. But we have to be proactive about tackling isolation as well, because I personally got stuck in a sort of cycle where I just kept myself to myself, and that can sometimes not be very useful really, because we can sometimes get inside our own heads. And then moving on to things like self-doubt. Everyone has self-doubt. Our brains are naturally wired to think negatively. So I think it's really important to notice negative thought patterns and work on reframing those patterns as well. And that's what I try to do. Knowing that success doesn't happen overnight. And there's one thing that I need to do more of, is to celebrate your small wins, so your small achievements. And I have come quite far already, and I'm sure you will have as well. But I think as entrepreneurs, and because I'm very driven, I tend to just keep looking towards the next goal. I don't actually celebrate what I have done. And so I think that's really important to do, which I've started doing. And the notion of you don't need to be productive every day. You can have a rest. That's okay to do that. And knowing that future goals often take longer to reach. So when you're not hitting those targets right away, doubt can sometimes creep in, especially if your goal is pretty big, like mine. And just make sure you give yourself the credit of accomplishing the short-term ones, because that will help you to get towards your future goal. And that's just what I found that has helped me, because I always look at the massive end goal, and you know, I think that we all do that. So setting those small manageable goals is good. Setting up a business. So I found that I just wear too many hats. We have to be the marketing person, the business development person, and the admin person, and everything else. And I've personally struggled with that as well. And sometimes this can feel like really overwhelming, and we can end up burning ourselves out. So just important to remember that you don't have to achieve everything in one day. So I try to like set a structure, and I've said to myself now, focus on one thing a day. Because I'm dyslexic, I tend to flit between different tasks, and I don't end up finishing the other task, and then I get annoyed because I don't feel like I've been as productive. So I just focus on one thing a day, and I do it well, which I find is currently working for me. So I'm sticking to that right now. But everyone else might have different things that work for them, but it's finding out what works for you and what's best for you as well. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed those little tips there. If you do have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to open up and answer anything, and I hope some of that was somewhat relatable. Any questions, guys, or how I've found running the nonprofit, please just ask me. If not, we will move on. We got some in the chat. Hold on. Oh, networking event. Okay. If you do have any questions at the end that you want to ask that might come up, just let me know. But next, we have Gary Parker, who's going to be doing his presentation on funding. Gary, over to you.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you for your presentation. This is probably the most boring bit, actually, of this morning. But it is obviously essential. This presentation will take about 20 to 25 minutes, and I'm going to give you an overview of funding sources for, with a particular focus on women-led businesses. I mean, some of these funding sources are generic and will fund any business, but I've tried to focus the presentation on organisations that are particularly geared up to support women-led businesses. One of the things I discovered some time ago about funding for women-led businesses is that compared to male-led businesses, women-led businesses are undercapitalised. So I think there's some big questions for government and for the financial institutions about why that actually is. Because from the research I've done, I can't see any real business or financial reasons. There are structural reasons, which is probably a discussion on another day. But with all that in mind, I will share the screen and we'll look at some funding sources. If you're new to this, it may be a bit overwhelming, but I do give a few particular tips, as we will see. So just do that now. Here we go. Right, let's go back to the top. Okay, these are all our social media links. We will send out a summary of this presentation later today to everybody who's registered. So obviously you can make notes or take screenshots, that's fine, but we will be sending a summary, but it won't be every slide because this presentation is over 30 slides and I'm not sure whether I'll get through all of it anyway, but here goes. So there's all our links, and we've got a YouTube channel, which the last presentation we did on funding 2 weeks ago was on that. There's my colleague Caroline Skelly, who some of you might know. You've certainly got the emails from her. Caroline is the general manager of CNT, and has been working with us for a number of years. These are some of the services we offer to women-led businesses: coaching, partnership development, fundraising and bid application writing, and business startup and development. We also work with a range of non-profits as well, and we can help you set up and fund one if you're interested in that, like the work I've been doing with Jenny. A bit more about me. CNT next year will be our 20th year. We've raised over £30 million for organisations we have worked with, and I've been managing director for about 10 years. And it's been an interesting ride, for everything from the aftermath of the Great Crash to the pandemic and other recent issues. But fortunately for us, we're still going strong, thanks to your support and the support of many others out there. These are my top 5 funding sites. If you don't know where to start, here are some very good ones to look at. The first is from an organisation called startups.co.uk, and there is a very good link: support groups and resources for female entrepreneurs. Does what it says. There's some other links there as well. For example, the Entrepreneur Handbook has 60 pages of grant funding throughout the UK. It's also a very good source of other information, as is the London Business Hub. The London Business Hub is supported by the Mayor of London. It's more business support than funding, but there are some funding opportunities or gateways to other funders on that site. But all of those I would recommend that you have a look at. This is the UK's National Business Support Line. You can contact them. You can phone them up. This phone number changes regularly, but I found it about 3 weeks ago, and it's still there. You may get redirected to the London Business Hub because they keep changing the structure of this, but you can email them as well, and you can get some direct advice and support from them. Here is some other specific support. I'm going to mention some of these least. Again, I'm not going to go through them one by one, but the two that really stand out for me are the British Library, which provides a lot of support, particularly around intellectual property, which is very important in business these days, and it's free. Most of these are free unless I say otherwise. There's also at the bottom Enterprise Nation. If you're a startup, they're having a very big event at the end of January. They have an annual event. I am an advisor for Enterprise Nation. That event is attended by hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses, and there's a lot of advice and support available. Enterprise Nation run a lot of events and training as well at low cost, no cost. So again, well worth checking out. Here's some of the regional support that is available. Again, there's London Business Hub, I've already mentioned them. And there's an interesting organisation called Newable. Newable provide business support. They used to be called Greater London Enterprise, but changed their name a few years ago. They're supported by all the London boroughs, and they particularly focus at the moment on digital and tech businesses. So there are some other opportunities around that, so that's worth checking out as well. And indeed, all of those links are worth having a look at. This kind of leads, support for tech businesses kind of leads into this. This is one of the first funders. This is an organisation, if you've got a digital or tech business, this is definitely worth having a look at. An organisation called Girl Geeks UK, but they do, this is an investment organizations. So, you know, they do want a return on their investment, but worth checking out for some of you. And they run a number of programs, including one called 500 Women Funding Flawless Female Founders, and a range of others, like the Female Founders Fund, who invest in female-led startups in e-commerce platforms and web-enabled services. So there's a number of interesting opportunities for digital and tech businesses there, if that's your forte. Here is another one. This is the Fredericks Foundation. This is loan funding. It's not grants. Anybody who doesn't know the difference between a grant and a loan, a grant is not repayable. A loan obviously is repayable, and these are loan funding. But the Fredericks Foundation is a charity that's been around for 50 or 60 years. And they'll support businesses. They've supported a lot of women-led businesses with a viable business plan who have been turned down by conventional lenders, i.e. a bank or some other financial institution. As long as you've got a business plan, that's what they focus on. And you can get loans of up to £15,000 and follow-on loans of up to £35,000 to support growth. But that is a loan funding program. There's an organisation called Innovate UK. Again, this is for tech businesses. Women-led tech businesses are underrepresented in that sector. So Innovate UK, which is a government funding agency, which puts a lot of money into digital and tech projects, has a number of programs. This is one of them, innovation vouchers. You need to check it out for what's currently on offer. They also have a women tech entrepreneurs network as well, which does some very good work. And again, if you're interested in that, I would advise you to check that out. This is one of the programs that they've run in recent years. You need to check the website to see if it's still going. This was specifically designed to support women entrepreneurs in the digital and tech sector. 10 women secured £50,000 grants to develop their tech businesses. But again, you need to check the website for the current situation with that. Here is another one. This is an angel network that is made up of investors, individual investors and institutional investors. Again, they specialize in backing technology startups with at least one woman on the founding team. These are the areas that they cover: financial technology, digital media, cybersecurity, educational technology, business to business, and what's now called business to community. More community focused businesses in a nutshell. And again, they've got some significant funding packages for the right businesses, between £150,000 and £1.5 million. So some serious funding opportunities there for some of you possibly. Here is another one. This is more for non-profits, because I'm trying to give a spread of funding in different areas. And this is a community-focused funding program, which provides community organisations and charities funding to empower them, basically. Again, the link is there, and it could well be worth checking out for some of you. Here's an international fund, because we have people from many locations who watch this online as well as on this presentation. This is a global fund for women. This is an American-based organisation that will fund women-led projects anywhere in the world. Again, it's a grant funding project which supports with operating and program expenses and the grants to help with travel and event organising and many other things. So for some of you, that's definitely worth checking out. The entry criteria are being based outside the US and dedicated to improving women's equality and/or human rights. So that is a very well-funded organisation and may well be worth checking out for some of you. This is a London Business Hub. I mentioned this earlier. This is funded through the London Enterprise Partnership and has quite a lot of funding. During the pandemic, they ran a number of programs, including a crowdfunding program and a number of other grant support programs. So Business Hub is still worth checking out, but you know the opportunities are changeable on that. So if there's nothing right now, don't assume that's always going to be the way, because it usually changes quite quickly on that. I'm going to say a little bit about crowdfunding now, because this has become more popular. Indeed, my colleague Jenny has raised some money on crowdfunding recently. The biggest in the world is Seedrs, which is an American-based crowdfunding platform, and they've probably a lot more than this now. The last time I checked, they've raised 1.5 billion to be invested in businesses. That you can, on most crowdfunding platforms for profit-making businesses, they have a bank of individual investors or institutional investors who invest money in new and existing businesses, and it's usually some form of equity or shareholding. If the business succeeds, and obviously they've got a share in a profitable business. If not, their investment is at risk. So it is at risk investment, and they are aware of this. The place to start on crowdfunding for most of you out there, I would suggest, is the next one, crowdfunder.co.uk, which is worth a look at. That's got a lot of tools for businesses that you can access, but basically how it works is you put a project online and you make a short video on the on your particular business, and then the key to this is publicizing it yourself, because obviously the site will give you some publicity, but you're competing against others. When you are developing this, you must factor in a promotional activity to get the word out there, because if people don't know about it, they can't contribute, basically. And there are a number of others. Crowdcube is a British one. It's run by Richard Branson's Virgin Group. They say that they've raised over 100 million for projects, crowdfunding projects. So there's quite a lot of these sites around, but you need to do your research. But what I would suggest to you, that a good place to start is Crowdfunder, and this is it. This is how it works. If you're a profit-making business, you set up the account and they collect the money for you, and they take 5% of what you raise. You don't have to pay in advance, but whatever your target is, and you have to reach your target, they take 5% plus some other transaction fees. If you're a non-profit, it's free. Much more detail on that site. The other thing that they do as well is they know a number of match-funded organisations. So if you say raise £3,000 through crowdfunding, you may well get another £3,000 or up to £3,000 on a match-funded basis for whatever you raise. There could be additional funding like here. That kind of comes and goes, but the basic crowdfunding platforms are still there, and as we've seen it, you can raise quite a lot of money through these initiatives. This is an example of a health program. The deadline has gone here, but I wanted to leave it as an example of a health one. There are a lot of health and wellbeing support programs out here. This was funding to support women's reproductive well-being in the workplace. An interesting program, and they had some big grants between 200,000 and 600,000 to support these initiatives for both the profit-making and non-profit making sector. Here is another one. Again, this is for non-profits. If you're looking to set up a non-profit, there's an organisation called Unlimited, and you can get grants of up to £15,000 to grow an existing social enterprise, or for a startup up to £5,000, and then you get some consultancy support as well. Unlimited are committed to providing 50% of their awards to Black, Asian and minority ethnic social entrepreneurs and or disabled social entrepreneurs. But there are a number of clear criteria for that. Again, the link is there if you want to check that out, but that scheme has been going, it's running right now, it's been going for a number of years and will continue to do so. Here is the British Airways Better World Community Fund. Again, it focuses on providing opportunities for girls in science, technology, engineering and mathematics related projects, and is a very interesting project that supports needs in local communities, and there's some focus on innovative ideas to prevent or reduce the impacts of climate change as well. Although of course, remember, BA are an airline, so I guess they've got some interest in that. Move on. Here is another community one. This is operated by organisations that manage landfill facilities. They're spread throughout the UK. You've got, if you're eligible for this, you need to go on their website, and they've got a postcode checker because you have to be within 10 miles of one. There are some in this area that were based at the moment, but this is a well-funded organisation, and you can get grants between £10,000 and £75,000 for various projects, but there are some stipulations on that, and say proximity to landfill and other related sites is one of them, but you can check that out on the website because they've got a postcode checker. Here is another one. This is operating right now in a slightly different form, but it's still there because I checked this out recently. This is the Bering Foundation BAME Wellbeing Programme, and grants are available between £20,000 and £60,000, and is supporting organisations who engage creatively with people with mental health problems from ethnically diverse communities. So again, an interesting funder, and well worth checking out for some of you. This is another non-profit making funder. This is a City Bridge Trust, which has been operating in London for many years. They give out about £15 million a year. It's a big funder. They have a number of funding opportunities, so best to check out the website if you're interested in that. But they've got a kind of London resilience program. There is also a cost of living initiative as well that they're involved in at the moment, which has just come out, but it's got a very tight deadline at the beginning of next month, but that could be of interest to some of you as well. This is one of Europe's biggest non-profit making funders. This is the Wellcome Trust. It's a pharmaceutical company. They're heavily involved in manufacturing COVID vaccines, so short of money they're not. They give out, well, it's nearly 800 million a year now, actually. It's certainly over 700 million. And very unusually, they will accept bids, but this is around health related research and science, anything to do with it. They will accept applications from anybody, whether you're an individual, a business, a charity, whatever, as long as it focuses on that area, which is very, very unusual because many charities won't fund businesses directly or individuals, but this organisation does, and they've got a range of programmes. One I've highlighted here is called the Public Engagement Fund for organisations and individuals in any sector who have the ability to engage through health-related research and science using any creative methodology. So whatever you like, really. And on that particular one, they've got grants ranging from £5,000 to 3 million. So that's serious funding, but there are other funding streams. You might want to check their website out, which is at the bottom of that screen. This is the Entrepreneur's Handbook. Again, I mentioned this earlier. This has got 60 pages of grant funding in the UK, but it's good on general entrepreneurship as well. So I'd really recommend that. I'm going to go through the next few slides quite quickly now. This is a government grants hub. Again, well worth checking out. It's got grants in a range of sectors and for non-profits as well as businesses as well. A good site to look at. Charitable and trust funding, just to reiterate this, even in the recession, because this is what happened 10 years ago, these are long-term funders who've been around for many years, and they're still giving out approximately £5 billion a year in grants, and that doesn't include the lottery and various others. So there's still a lot of money there. What there will be now is more competition if we have another recession, which seems likely. But as we've seen, you know, some funders like the Wellcome Foundation, they give nearly 800 million in grants. So, you know, that's a lot of money, and so do many of the other organisations that are charitable organisations. Two good sites got there. Grants Online, there is a paywall on that, but you can get some information about funders for free on that. So it's well worth checking out. Trustfunding.org.uk, that is a pay site as well, but there are other charitable trust funders depending on what sector you're in, wellbeing, creative arts, or whatever. We run a lot of presentations about specific sectors. Here is all government research and development grants under one roof. It's an organisation called UKRI. You've probably never heard of it. UK Research and Innovation, because I'd not heard about it myself until fairly recently, but they've consolidated all funding and support across all academic disciplines and industrial areas on this site. That's why it's important. And there's some of the areas that they cover. This is not a definitive list because I couldn't get it all on one slide, so I picked out a few, but it ranges from developing people and skills to tackling COVID and responding to climate change and many other things. So that site is definitely worth checking out. And Innovate UK, which I mentioned earlier, is now part of this programme on this site, with the innovation aspect of it. This is the British Library's information. Again, intellectual property is very important, and the British Library have been running a whole range of programmes in local libraries, and still are in some places, in South London especially. So well worth checking out. But the British Library is a national institution based at King's Cross. You can now go back in person, but they run a lot of very interesting presentations and support online. So there's a link to the British Library if you want information about intellectual property, and it's all free, because if you consult a lawyer about this, you're going to end up paying quite a lot. So my advice is, if you've got any intellectual property issues, to go to the British Library. That's got to be your first port of call. That's one of my clients, Nicole Bowen, who runs an organisation called Michael's Caribbean Imports. She makes a variety of spice and sauce products. I've been helping her with her business development, and I've referred her to some other support for branding, because the business is significantly developing at the moment. So just one example of somebody that CNT works with. I'm going to finish there. I'm quite happy to take any questions, or we can leave them to the end. Can't see anybody at the moment. Okay, back to you, Jenny.
Thanks, Gary. Just want to say, when you do crowdfunding, make sure you set it out right, because they're very devious of what button you select. Because if you, as to whether you can, obviously, I made a mistake, and I was honest with that when I selected an option for if I didn't raise all the money, I couldn't keep it. So, but I managed to change it, and someone else made that mistake as well. So I just thought I'd get that out there, just in case anyone sets up a crowdfunding page. I get to keep the money no matter what. If I don't reach my target, I get to keep all the money now. So yeah, just thought I'd say that, because you have to be very careful, like, with what you select. But the support team were very good. They let me change it. So but yeah, with the crowdfunding, personal experience, just to keep plugging it out there and keep marketing it to people. That's how and it's been successful so far, which is good. So I can put the link in the chat as well if you want to have a look at our current crowdfunder. So, and it's still ongoing. But yeah, no, thanks for that, Gary. Oh, question? Yes.
Yeah. Can I just ask, are these fundings for the UK or London only, or regions, or?
Good question. You need to check the site, because some of them, obviously the London hub is likely to be more London based, but many of the others are national. If you look in the Entrepreneur's Handbook, that's 60 pages of national funding. And others like the Wellcome Foundation, for example, who I highlighted, they will fund a project anywhere in the UK. And indeed, they do have some international funds as well. Some of the other funds, like the Global Fund for Women, fund women-led projects anywhere in the world, although they do focus on certain parts of the globe at certain times. But you know, so most of them are UK wide. There are a few specific to London, but they will say on the site.
Can I just ask another question, please? Is it for like only the startup businesses, or the businesses that they are like halfway through, or they've been like for 3 years but they didn't get any profit yet, or something like that? What kind of businesses they are supporting?
Well,
or
sorry. It depends really. Most of the funders that I've highlighted will consider applications from any type of business, whether you're a startup or an existing business. But obviously, you can if you've got a track record, it's easier. If you're a startup, it's harder. You should be aware of that, but it's not impossible. But for example, if you're a startup social enterprise, say, you can bid to the lottery and they will fund any project on its merits, whether you're a startup or not. So it varies from funder to funder. That's what I'm trying to say. You need to check out the terms and conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Cool, great stuff. I think we have Sybil next for her presentation. So Sybil, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jenny and Gary. So as we're running a bit late, I'm going to keep this very short. So just a quick intro to myself. My name is Sybil. I'm running a business called Sybiltec, which provides website design and development services to small businesses, and also training services, so I can host webinars and workshops to speak on IT related topics. And I started my business in February of 2020, and since then I've helped over 20 businesses to improve their online presence, so mainly developing websites for these small businesses. And there are 3 questions I've been asked to answer. So the first question is, what is the main issues I've been facing when setting up my business? So I would say that the issue for me was really understanding my business. Now, what do I mean by that? So there's two things. So it's defining products and services and understanding ideal customers. So when I first started, I was trying to offer too many things, too many different services. I wanted to do web design, SEO, social media, graphic design. And then I realized that I didn't actually have all the skills. I didn't have the passion for all of these. So then I sat down and thought about it, and I realized I wanted to focus just on the web development side. So that's what I do now. And I would say that the fewer services you offer, the more you can really focus on them and provide a better quality service to your customers. And second thing is understanding your ideal customers. So this was also a problem for me at first. I think it's quite tempting to offer your products and services to everyone. So everyone is your customer. But that's really not the case. So if you think about what you're actually selling, who do you think would be most likely to buy this product or services? So you've probably heard before about target audiences, but I can't stress how important it is to do this, to really think, who are these people? Like, are they a particular age? What's their gender? Where do they live? What is their income, etc.? So once you've got that defined, knowing who your ideal clients are, customers, you'll be able to tailor your products and services accordingly. You'll be able to price your products and services appropriately, and you'll be able to come up with a strategy to be able to locate where your ideal customers are. So that's the first one. The second question is, have I faced any issues which are specific to women? So in my experience, being a woman in tech sector is particularly difficult, as the sector is still male dominated and there's still lots of work to be done in order to close the gender inequality gap. And I also think in general, women also tend to feel less confident about themselves, whether it's in business or in other areas of their lives. And because of that, women tend to undervalue themselves. So my advice really is networking. So find other women who may be able to support you. There are many women's groups out there, so online groups and forums that you can join, online communities. One particular one that I found useful is called Ada's List, which is an online community for females only. So just for the tech sector, although there is a tech area on there, so you can network with other women in business. They post jobs on there as well, and you're also able to advertise your own business and services and ask for help and advice. Being a woman in business can be a lonely journey, but you don't have to go through the journey alone. So seek others who can help and advise you. And the third question is, what is the one piece of advice I would give to someone who is starting a business or social enterprise? So my advice would be good time management. So I think it's important not to underestimate the time it takes to build a successful business. So if you're already working full-time on your business, and it's great, you don't need to change anything, but you might have a part-time job, or maybe you have other commitments and you need to work around these. So you need to think realistically how you can fit your business around these activities. And I would recommend to spend some time on your business every day, even if that's like half an hour or 1 hour. Because if not, if you stop for a while, I think it's very easy to lose momentum. And once you lose that momentum, it can be hard to get back into the flow. So to summarize, spend time on your business, take care of it, nurture it, grow your business, really look after your business, and one day it will look after you. So make sure you commit, make sure you are 100% committed to it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Sybil. That's great. Does anyone have any questions at all for Sybil? Okay, cool. No worries. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Patricia, right? If I've said that right, hopefully.
Hi everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, all good.
Okay, brilliant. Hi, so I'm Patricia. I run Happily, Clappily, Ever Laughter, which is basically a well-being laughter business, and I help people to lower stress and anxiety through laughter. Your brain can't tell the difference between real and fake laughter, so it's based on Dr. Kataria, who invented it 25 years ago. He had laughter groups where they would laugh at absolutely nothing, fake laughter. And he was doing it within his hospital, and people were getting discharged from hospital quicker. So what laughter does is it increases T cells, and T cells are our disease fighting cells. So they're amazing at boosting our immunity, helping our heart, blood pressure, and also lowering stress and anxiety. So it's kind of just hacking the brain to make you feel better. So I do workshops for corporate organizations, older people, and also families. So at the moment, I run family groups for 0 to 5 in children's centres, and I also do adults as well. And like Sybil said, actually, I'm still trying to find my market, even though people keep telling me I'm very good with the children. That's not where I want to be. But it seems to be the place where there's the most demand. So I would say, like Sybil, one of the main issues for me was to try and hone in on actually what I was good at, what I could offer really confidently, and whether there was a market for that and a demand for that. And I'm finding out very slowly that the children is where it's at, and the children's centres inundated with bookings, whereas my kind of vision of where I was going was lots of corporate sessions and helping older people, and it's just the complete opposite. So I think having a smaller menu, a smaller offer, knowing what you're good at, like Sybil said, is actually a really good way of running the business, because it helps you to hone in on what you're good at, really improve it, and make the best of that area. And obviously once that's established, then you can go into other areas. So the main issue for me with establishing my business was finding that where was kind of my market, my niche, and also I would say really basic things like time. I've got 2 children, and I've got a part-time job as well. So trying to work on the business as well as do all of that, that was a major issue. And I would say, and Gary knows this, finances were very difficult at the beginning. You need finances to start a business. So getting funding through the help of CNT Associates and getting work through networking and meeting other small businesses, partnering up, that really helped as well. So thank you, Gary. And I would say being a female-led business, apart from being a mother and having to sort of juggle that between work, the business and the children, I think when you go into, especially corporate environments, it's very male orientated. And I was lucky that in my past work, I did a lot of centre management, community centres for Peabody. So I was kind of used to being the only female in a boardroom. So it helped a lot. But I would say the one thing I have come across is that could be quite intimidating if you're not kind of prepared for that. And like Sybil said, and I would echo this, find people in your community, find other women doing the same or similar things as you within your sector. Networking has been amazing for me, just meeting people and being able to talk about the business and having people to either be a sounding board or actually refer you or get you into other networks. That's been amazing. So funding opportunities as well, and Greenwich Borough has amazing funding out there for small, medium-sized businesses. And Gary is an amazing, I'm not trying to give you a big ego, Gary, but he's been amazing in just helping me source funding, advising me in the best way to go about things. And even with that advice, I would say I still had lots and lots of hurdles along the way, but ask for advice. That's my piece of advice. And then the other piece of advice is I always thought, okay, I'm going to start my business, it's going to be great, everyone wants to do some fake laughter, it's going to be amazing, but actually slow and steady is the way to go. And I found over the last few years that I've just really been careful, gone really slowly, and if I need to do something new, I've tried to find a way to test the market first, even if it's only on a small group of people, or go back and get advice. Really try and go slow and steady so that you know, nothing happens overnight, but you know what you're getting into. And sometimes your reputation really is on the line. So if you're trying to go too fast and you deliver something that you're not ready for, or that might not really be your audience, that reputation follows you. So I always think you have to really know what you're going into, and the only way you can give it your best is that if you've tested that market and seen the mistakes that you can make, rectify those mistakes, make it better. So you've got a streamlined service and you're offering, especially with corporates, that sort of mistake. If you have a terrible workshop, you're not forgiven for that, and you won't be rebooked. And then obviously if you have a fantastic workshop, then the word gets out that you're amazing and everyone wants some more laughter. And Sybil has done an amazing website. Thank you, Sybil. I paid Sybil to do an amazing website, and she's done a really good website. And that was after about 4 or 5 years of actually running the business before I did a website, because I think sometimes we rush into it, because if you get an inquiry on that website and you're not ready, again, you have to be ready. So yes, definitely slow and steady, get lots of advice, try and get some funding, make sure that you're financially buoyant, and yeah, try and work on the business every day, like Sybil says, even a little tiny bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thanks, Patricia. Any questions for Patricia at all? Okay, let's move on to our next speaker. We have Valerie for our next speaker. Is Valerie here at all?
Yes, I am. Hello. I didn't realize I was going to come in, but thank you for the opportunity. I'm based in Kent, and I work for a project called Growing Kent and Medway. And we run a food accelerator. So we actually help businesses who are developing, it could be startup or well-established businesses who've got a new concept, a new idea about a really innovative food and drink product. And we help them with an intensive program for 4 months to get that product to market or closer to market. So we help them with getting some business support, especially for food and drink companies. We introduce them to the right people. We help them with we also give technical support, which is quite important. It's really a gap in the market because we get lots of amazing people giving business support out there. But what we are looking at is really looking at issues that you may have with a food or drink product when you want to upscale. So some businesses may have a really good food and drink product they can sell in the market, but if you actually want to start selling in shops and to the public or online, then you need to have the labeling right and you need to have the shelf life right. So we got a new Medway Food Innovation Center based in Chatham, and we can help you with that. And when you join the program, which is free of charge, you get lots of support along the way, and hopefully we will find your product in a local restaurant or in a local shop. So if you have an idea or you know somebody, the only issue is you have to be based in Kent for the moment, because it's funded by the Growing Kent and Medway project. So we're hoping when we finish after 3 years, we will be opening up to everybody. But at the moment, we are looking for Kent and Medway businesses, men and women, but we need somebody who is motivated, ambitious, and want to scale up their food and drink business. So any question, just drop me an email. I put my details in the chat. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks a lot. Really interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah, any questions, pop them in the chat or ask them at the end. Thank you for that. Next, we have Roger Ambrose as well. Would you like to?
Hello there. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Good. Well, I'll suggest. Look, Gary's asked me to come along this morning and just have a discussion or make a little presentation on various accounting and tax issues that in your relatively new businesses you may or may not be familiar with. So I've made a few pertinent notes that may be of interest to some or all of you, I hope. But before I start, do any of you have any specific questions of a tax or accounting nature that you'd like to run by me before I begin? Anyone, any issues that? No? Okay, well, the theme that I was going to put together today to make it a little topical was how to extract money out of your businesses tax effectively. Many of you obviously will be working hard, earning money through your companies, through your businesses, but it's nice to be able to get that money out in a tax benign way. So I'm here to give you 1 or 2 bullet points, 1 or 2 tips that you may be familiar with or not. And if they're not, well, make a note and discuss them perhaps with your accountant or be aware of them going forward. I'm going to assume many of you are operating as limited companies. I recognise that some will be sole traders, unincorporated, or even partners, in a partnership. But I'm going to focus. Most of this will be on your limited company cases for those of you who have your own companies already. Basically, there are 2 ways that you can extract money from a company efficiently. One is through a salary. You're at liberty to draw a salary yourself, and at the end of the year, when your profits are known, you can draw dividends, which is a distribution of your post-tax profits. I'd always encourage you to draw a salary if at all possible, because that salary you draw will, assuming you pay at a sufficient level, allow you to ensure that you have a national insurance contribution stamp for the year. You have another year's worth of pension contributions available on your record. The ideal salary this year currently is £11,098. That's a strange number, but it's the most efficient form of salary, which would mean that you actually have your national insurance contributions paid for you. You have a credit without necessarily paying those contributions yourself. It seems a little odd, but with a salary of that level, under your payroll scheme, you'll find that you're not paying national insurance, but by presenting that end of year record with your salary reported on a P60, you will actually have a national insurance, have paid enough salary to give you a national insurance contribution record. So think of ensuring that you do at least pay yourself a modest salary, but I recognise there are reasons why you perhaps would want to pay more. The salary itself is tax deductible in the accounts anyway. Think also of dividends. The first £2,000 of dividends you take each year are, in each tax year, are tax-free. You have a dividend allowance of £2,000. Anything more, and you're currently paying dividend tax at 7.5% on your tax or through your self-assessment, but the first 2,000 are exempt. And if you are in that fortunate position of earning more than 50,000, well, be aware that the dividend rate goes up to 32.5%. One word of warning: we are suspecting that in that financial statement that the Chancellor presents next week, he is going to look at corporation tax and dividend tax as a route to increasing the tax take. So we expect dividend rates to go up, and possibly corporation tax that he's already suggested will increase to 25%. But on that point, don't be concerned. Your rate, well, I suspect the majority of you won't just run from the current 19 to 25 unless you are earning profits of more than $250,000 a year. There is tapering relief for what we call small businesses, businesses who earn relatively modest sums, less than 100,000. You are still going to be paying 19%, but progressively moving up the chart from 19 to 25 the more you earn. But for a lot of clients, a lot of my clients at least, who have their companies and are earning less than 100,000, your corporation tax rate is not going to increase next week, although the headline rate will suggest it's 25%. Think about loans occasionally if you wish to, rather than dividends. Loans up to £10,000 are not only can be interest-free if you wish to nominate that as an interest rate, but also tax-free, provided you pay the loan back within 9 months of your accounting year end. So if you wish to take some money out of the company but don't wish to draw a dividend, think about a loan, provided you have the resources in as I say, to pay that money back well, it would be 9 months after the end of your accounting year, so anything up to 21 months in total. If you work from home, don't forget you can draw, I always suggest £6 a week for use of home as an office, but draw that money. Don't just claim it in your accounts. That's money the company owes you for you legitimately working from home. So those of you that do, think about drawing that money out periodically. Mobile phones, if you have a mobile phone, and it is a phone by definition, get that registered in the company name, because there is no taxable benefit on you if the company pay those costs, even if you use it 100% of the time personally. Think about that. That's quite a little perk that a lot of people overlook. Get the company paying the contract, and there's no apportionment for private use. If you use your car for business, don't forget you can claim 45p a mile for business use on the first 10,000 miles. It does reduce to 25p a mile after the first 10,000. But again, draw it. The company, you can put a claim in 45p a mile times the number of miles you do in a month, in a week, or over a quarter, or whatever you care to nominate. Put that through as an expense claim, and the company can reimburse you and claim it themselves. I find some businesses, they ask the director or the employee how many miles they've done. They claim it in the accounts, but what's overlooked is actually reimbursing you for using your own car for business purposes. If you use a cycle, if you cycle for business, that also is still allowable, 20p a mile. And if you have a motorcycle, it's 24p a mile. Other little points, if you go and have a medical checkup, if you go and have an eye test, if you use your computer regularly and you go and have an eye test, and that involves new glasses for the computer, those costs can be met or reimbursed to you by the company. And if you go and have a medical, a well woman test, Bupa, DEXA, whoever you do, again, the cost of the annual medical checkup, keeping you fit to work for your company, that can be paid for by the company or reimbursed to you. And of course, if you are, well, I say of course, if you're traveling on business, don't forget that for every 5 hours that you're away on business, you can claim a £5 lunch allowance, or an evening meal of up to £10 if you're away all day. Now that's where the trip is exceptional. This is not for regular commuting or a regular trip that you make each week. If it's exceptional, so if you're maybe traveling from London to Manchester, you leave early before 7 AM, don't forget then that you can claim the £5 lunch allowance, the £10 meal allowance, and of course your traveling costs. And there's one other little benefit that I'd like to talk about. That's trivial gifts. Your company can make gifts to you. They can't be financial, they can't be monetary, they can be vouchers. But if, for example, you reach a target, profits have gone up for the year, they can pay you £50 vouchers, Marks and Spencer's, whoever you care to nominate, that can be paid to you by the company as a reward. It's what we call trivial gifts allowance. Could be rewarded to you on your birthday, perhaps. Any employees, you can pay any amounts of up to £50, but if it's you as a director of your own company, you can only do that on 6 occasions, up to £300. But it's just worth knowing. It's all the time, we're looking at ways for you to get the money out of the company that won't create the tax bill for you, but remembering to take it. So that's my sort of 5 or 10 minutes worth. If any of you have any questions, feel free to ask them now, or come back to me through Gary as and when.
That was really useful. Thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure.
Made some notes there myself.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, one question, is there?
Yes, questions, please.
Yeah.
I'm still a sole trader, and I'm
Right.
gonna do the limited company.
Mhm.
So when I do tax return myself, because I didn't do, like, I do register my mileage, I do all that, but my profit doesn't exceed the amount that it's taxable.
Right.
So what do I do?
It's a good point. If you're not earning enough to pay tax, it doesn't make a great deal of difference, Hayam. But if those costs are sufficient in size to create a loss, in other words, your expenses, by the time you add in those car allowances, your mobile phone, use of home as an office, whatever, eye tests and the like, plus your materials and your stationery and whatever, if those costs exceed income and you make a loss in maybe a year 1 or 2, there are various things you can do with that loss. You can carry them forward, certainly, but if you wish to, you can carry the loss back and recover any tax that you've paid before you started in self-employment, maybe through pay as you earn. If you were working through an employer, you can carry the loss backwards and claim some of that tax back if, as I say, the expenses exceed the income.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Be careful before you go limited. If you are at that stage where you're not paying tax quite yet, I would hesitate before going limited, unless you need to. There are reasons why, perhaps for commercial profile, you wish to become limited, but I would generally say limited companies generally incur, you have to have 2 sets of accounts, one for company's house, one for the revenue. There are certain other disciplines that you need to be aware of, and that can escalate maybe fees, professional fees. So before you go down that path, make sure that you're earning some reasonably good profits, because the tax advantages of going limited are very remote if you are a basic rate or a non-taxpayer.
I've been advised, because I'm dealing with food,
Yeah.
it's better to go limited.
Yes.
And registered as limited, but I only activated when I start making revenue. Is that?
I think there are reasons why you would. For example, if you are dealing with food or something a little sensitive, some clients, some businesses will wish to go limited to give their own directors or their own business proprietors limited liability. So if you are limited, it's your business that's at risk, if you like, rather than the individual. So maybe in food and hygiene, that's a reason why you perhaps would. I understand that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All good.
Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
We go end the session with any questions.
Right.
Gary, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jenny, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Roger, as well. Roger's details, I put your email address in the chat for everybody if you want to follow that up. And you've also got all our other contact details. You're on our mailing list. Say this previous presentations are on YouTube, and we have a number of forthcoming ones which we'll be emailing you about. We've got one on sustainability coming up soon. We've got one hosted by Sybil on getting your business online, and we've got 2 business funding ones still to come as well. So there's a lot still there before Christmas. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to thank Jenny as well, in particular, for hosting this today, because like the rest of you, she's very, very busy. So I much appreciate that. And Patricia and Sybil and Valerie, and all of you for joining us today. We will be sending out a summary of my presentation later. If you want to get in touch with any of the other people here, you can email as well, and we'll pass your email or message onto them, whatever it is. But thank you for joining us all today. I look forward to seeing you again soon.